Hey everybody, welcome back to Breeze Toys. So I wanted to do something different today. I showed off a couple of different toys, but I wanted to do a topical video this week. And the topic is, are there too many action figure lines? And I'm not just meaning, is there too much variety in the action figures? We're talking Ninja Turtles and He-Man and Transformers and Fortnite and Mario and Sonic and FNAF and everything else. Yeah, there's a lot of variety in the action figures. But there's also a lot of variety within the individual action figure lines. So for example, you don't just have WWE, you don't just have a singular WWE action figure line. You have like 3 or 4 separate WWE action figure lines that I know about running simultaneously. Likewise, you have 4 or 5 Star Wars action figure lines running concurrently. You've got, I don't even know how to count how many Transformers lines they have going concurrently. And you got at least 3 Minecraft lines that I know about. My cat is just being fussy pants. And 2 or 3 Super Mario lines that I know about, and at least 2, possibly 3 Sonic the Hedgehog lines that I know about. And we're not even talking about Super 7 or NECA or Funko or any of that stuff. We're just talking like kids' toys, basically. And so when I go to the toy aisle in Walmart, Target, whatever, I go straight to the action figure aisle after I have sifted through all of the action figures available and selected whichever one is going home with me that day. I then go down the die-cast car aisle looking for a die-cast car, usually a Hot Wheel or a Matchbox, occasionally a Johnny Lightning or a Macro Machine if I come across it, and then other cases, whatever I feel like. Maybe it's a John Deere or whatever. So, I do look at the different action figure lines. I start with Transformers. So I'm not going to be able to list all the different Transformer lines that are running concurrently at the same time. I can't. And I'm not going to look it up. I just know that there's at least 4 or 5. At least. Not just different scales, but like completely different lines. And within each line, there's different scales, sizes of figures and complexity of figures. And each line is different. They offer something different. And one of my problems with the Transformers in particular is you have variety in the lines, meaning you've got Buzzworthy Bumblebee, and you got Legacy, and you got Rise of the Beasts, and you got Studio Series, etc. So you got a handful going on simultaneously, but the problem is all 4 or 5 of those lines have their own Optimus Prime. They have their own Megatron, their own Starscream, their own Shockwave, their own Bumblebee, their own Grimlock, etc. So, like, you have choices, not just which line to collect or which scale or complexity to collect, but also which version of the character you want. Are you going to get Buzzworthy Bumblebee Grimlock and then Legacy Starscream and Rise of the Beasts Optimus Primal and I don't know, whatever the other one is, Bumblebee, or vice versa, or mix and match? That's just too much to choose from. Now, Ninja Turtles isn't as complex, but there's still some variety there. Within Ninja Turtles, we currently have 2 lines running simultaneously with some variety within those respective lines. We have the vintage reissues line, which are just the old toys, just, with slightly modernized packaging, but it's the old toys reissued, retooled, or just re-released, basically. Separate from that, we have Mutant Mayhem. Now, I did a video previously talking about Mutant Mayhem, how as a toy line it didn't appeal to me, mostly because of the aesthetic, and I didn't look closely at the figures, and so I didn't feel like they were as well designed or as well articulate as the rise of the TMNT toys. But this past time I went into the toy aisle, I was overwhelmed by how much product there was in the Mutant Mayhem line. So not only have they expanded it tremendously to include some really good looking figures that I am tempted to buy, to be honest. I've taken a closer look at the Mutant Mayhem toys, and I've observed they've got better sculpting and articulation than I had previously thought they had. So I apologize for my previous criticisms of the Mutant Mayhem line, because those criticisms are now moot and no longer accurate. So forgive me for that. He-Man, or Masters of the Universe, is really fucking complicated. So you got the Retro Play line, you've got the Revelations line, you've got the Masterverse line, you've got the Netflix series line. That's too much. How many fucking Orcos do you need? And be honest. Be honest. How articulated and detailed do you fucking need Orco to be? Yeah, Beastman, Skeletor, I can see you want a premium figure, but fucking Orco, give me a break. He shouldn't even be in the Masterverse line. Give me a fucking break. G.I. Joe is also very fucking complicated. When I was looking at the G.I. Joes, I was able to distinguish at least 3, possibly 4 toy lines on the shelf. And I say possibly 4 because the 4th one may have been overstock that they just haven't been able to clearance out yet. Because I see the premium line, which I can't remember what it's called. Classified, I think? That's the 6-inch line. They also have the 3 3/4 inch line. And then they've got the 6-inch toys that are not the premium ones, but they're also not the 3 3/4 inch line. And there's still some Snake Eyes toys on the toy aisle too. I saw some Snake Eyes toys, which I said are probably just overstocked that they haven't clearanced yet. Marvel is beyond out of hand. They've got Bendy's, they've got the Spider-Verse line, they've got the Spider-Man line, I think. They've got the X-Men 97, they've got the Marvel Legends, they've got the Marvel Legends 3 3/4 inch line, they've got the vintage line, they've got so many fucking... They got the 12-inch line, they got so many fucking Marvel toys, it's ridiculous. And then I noticed Super Mario Brothers has 2 lines running currently. There's the main line that has replaced World of Nintendo, basically, more or less. And then there's the ones based on the movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Sonic the Hedgehog also has 3 lines. They've got the 2.5-inch toys. They've got the 3 3/4 inch toys, I believe they are. And then they've also got the toys based on the Netflix series, which I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Sonic Prime or something like that? I can't remember. Minecraft has Creator Series and then the main ones, and then it's got the ones based on the Minecraft spin-offs. I can't remember which ones they are. So there's like there's at least 3 Minecraft lines running currently. I only collect the main line. I'm not interested in the creator line or the spin-offs. I can't even remember what they're called. Dungeons, I think, is one of them. I can't remember the other ones. I'm not interested in any of those. And I'm being very picky about the main line. I only want basically the classic vanilla Minecraft creatures. So I want skeleton, zombie, Enderman, spider, cave spider, villager, what's it called? Steve, Alex, pig, sheep, cow, horse. And that's it. That's really all I want. I don't even want the dragon. I don't want any of the piglins or any of the nether creatures. No blazes, nothing from the nether. Nothing at all from the nether. And nothing from the end. Except for I do want one Enderman. But I don't want a ton of Minecraft anyway, so I'm not all that interested. And I noticed there are at least 2, maybe 3 distinct Fortnite lines running at the same time. So this is a long way for me to say, my God, there's too many fucking action figures. On top of all the variety within each individual line, separate from that, you have NECA doing its thing. You got Funko doing its thing. You got Super 7 doing its thing. And then there's like 4 or 5 additional toy lines that are more or less the same thing as those. But I don't remember what they're called. But like I've seen a bunch of others, especially on Amazon and eBay. And just sidestepping back to Transformers for a second, I didn't even talk about Masterpiece or any of the third-party stuff. Holy shit. So, yeah. I'm not going to go so far as to say there's too many necessarily action figures. Holy shit, there's a lot of variety. But the question I have is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if you're looking at toy sales as a whole, not great right now. And Hasbro in particular, very much not great right now. I wonder if having too much product on the shelf is a detriment. Because you got 5 different packages of Spider-Man. You have 5 different versions of Spider-Man to pick. Which Spider-Man do you buy? You got 3 different Minecrafts. You got 3 different Mario, Sonic, Fortnite, He-Man. Holy shit, what do you buy? And how do you know what to collect? Jesus, especially Transformers and Star Wars. How do you pick what to collect? There's just fucking too much. I take the approach of I'm not going for complete collections of anything, but I want not necessarily what I consider the best of each toy. I want the one that appeals to me the most. So I, for example, have a Marvel Legends, what's her name? Nebula. I don't need a vintage style Nebula or I don't know, what are they called? Guardians of the Galaxy specific Nebula. I have a Nebula. I have a Iron Man action figure, and I don't even know what line it's from. It's not Legends, I know that. I don't need the Legends Iron Man. I have my Iron Man figure. I'm good. So I don't have a hard, fast, firm 1 figure per character rule, but it is a guideline I use in my collecting. So once I have a Wonder Woman, that's my Wonder Woman, etc. There are exceptions. There are like obvious, like, literal exceptions to that, like Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Megatron, etc. There are exceptions. But there are also, like, exceptions in that I'm not being picky about what I buy. So if I do buy, for example, I buy I don't know, a 3 3/4 inch Mr. Fantastic, and I'm fine with it. It's a good figure. But then somewhere down the road, I come across a Marvel Legends Mr. Fantastic. Maybe it's a different style, or maybe I just think the accessories look cool or whatever, and the price is right. I'll pick it up. I'm not opposed to that. I do have multiple Batman figures. I do have multiple Spider-Man figures, and I'm not going to limit myself on. I already have a Wonder Woman from the main DC line that's running right now, but that's not going to stop me from buying that DC whatever it is that they have going right now too. That vintage style line, whatever it's called. That's not going to stop me from buying that Wonder Woman also, because that's a damn good looking Wonder Woman. The one that I will say is doing it the worst is Star Wars. Star Wars does have distinct packaging and product lines for each individual property. So Rebels has its own toy line. The Mandalorian has its own toy line. There's the vintage line. There's the Black Series, etc. But the vintage line and the Black Series are the two that I have the most problems with. One of the problems I have with the vintage line is for one, the fact that they're calling it the vintage line, but they're releasing modern figures in that line. And the second problem I have with that, going a step further, is they're making them in the style of the classic Kenner action figures, which suck. Why couldn't they make the vintage line based on the Power of the Force 2 figures, or something more modern, versus going all the way back to 1978, for fuck's sake? The problem I have with the Black Series is there's no direction. Like, fucking anything can pop up in the Black Series. Whereas I would personally expect it to be premium figures based on the most sought after figures. So for me, that would be the Saga characters: Vader, Luke, Han, Lando, Leia, C-3PO, Jar Jar, Mace Windu, etc. You know, from the 9 Saga films. Nothing from the spin-offs. Because I feel like if they're going to do a 6-inch Mandalorian line, they should do a 6-inch Mandalorian line. Call it something else. Don't release Mandalorian figures in the Black Series. The Black Series should be limited to the sagas. But they've already screwed the pooch on that. So there's no going back. I won't buy those figures. But to be fair, okay, hypocrite here, I'm not a fan of the Black Series by and large. I am not an uber fan of the, quote, vintage line, as it's called, Star Wars Vintage. But I'll buy a figure I like in the vintage style over a Black Series figure, unless it's one that I really, really like. Like I bought a Jar Jar in the Black Series because I love Jar Jar. I know that's not popular to love Jar Jar, but I do. Because Episode 1's my favorite Star Wars movie, which is also not a popular opinion, but it is. So, I think that for me personally, I won't say there's too much variety, because while the vintage TMNT line is nice that it exists, it's very limited in the selection of figures that they're willing to release. And so I'm willing to take a second look at Mutant Mayhem for some of those characters that maybe the Mutant Mayhem reimagining is cooler looking. You know, I don't have any examples off the top of my head. As far as the turtles, the four turtles themselves, I have all four of the original vintage turtles, and I have all four of the Rise of the TMNT turtles. I'm not likely, not saying I won't, but I'm not likely to buy the four turtles again in any line. But I'm not happy with the Rise Shredder, and I'm very, very not happy with the vintage Shredder. So, depending on what the Mutant Mayhem Shredder ends up looking like, if it even gets a Shredder, that might, twist my arm. Otherwise, I'll probably look at NECA or Super 7 for a Shredder, because the vintage Shredder sucks. It just flat fucking sucks. And the Rise Shredder isn't Shredder. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that ain't no fucking Shredder. So, as far as I'm concerned, I have two Shredders in my collection, but at the same time, I don't have a definitive Shredder in my collection. So, I'm still on the hunt for a legit Shredder, because the vintage Shredder sucks and the Rise Shredder sucks. So yeah, I think there's room for variety in the marketplace, especially with the collector market being what it is. And if we go back to the 90s, we got new Ninja Turtles every year of the four turtles, and they always came with interesting costumes or gimmicks or whatever. So, yeah, there's room for variety in the line. Why not? Where it gets confusing isn't so much having variety in the line. It gets confusing where you have multiple lines simultaneously. For example, Star Wars, or very specifically Transformers. Because I am of the opinion that there's just too many Transformers lines in general. I think that I'm not a fan of them rebooting the line every year. I wish we could get one line to stick around for 3 to 5 years like we had in G1, G2, Beast Wars, etc., like we used to get before it turned into a new toy line every year, because I'm getting sick and tired of seeing Starscream on the shelf, for fuck's sake. I get it. Starscream is a popular character, but there's only so many times you can buy an F-15 fighter jet.